In this video, I will teach you how to sit like a yoga master in the lotus pose, just the way I'm sitting right now. And towards the end of the video, I will briefly touch upon some advanced practices involving the Khechari Mudra and Kundalini. So make sure to stay towards the end of the video, even if you're already able to sit in the lotus pose for a long time without any problems. Padmasana, often referred to as the lotus pose, is an asana well suited for sitting stable in meditation. While there are some people who could sit in this pose without much prior training, most people require to train themselves to sit like this. I, for example, couldn't sit in this pose initially and had to train to be able to achieve it, but now this pose has become like second nature to me. Now what prevents most people from sitting in this pose is that the hips and the legs are not being flexible enough. But fortunately, both those things are trainable. To train up those abilities, you could do some exercises to open up the hips, such as the butterfly pose, Baddha Konasana. Have a straight back and have the soles of the feet pressed together. Then you move your legs up and down like the flapping of butterfly wings. Then, when you have become more advanced in this practice, you can also begin by bending over while sitting in this pose. But remember to not do this at the beginning, and only do it once you have become more flexible. You can also stay and rest at a certain position when bending over, and then proceed further down if you can. But remember, don't do this at the beginning, and first start out with only the flapping of your legs like butterfly wings. Before beginning to bend your legs for this pose, you should also stretch your legs back and forth. As well as stretch the joints of the feet. After this, I would recommend that you first start with one leg at a time. This is actually a second asana called the Half Lotus or the Ardha Padmasana. To do this, you place one foot over the opposite thigh. When doing this, you must make sure that you do not bend the legs at the knees, but it is the hips that should do most of the rotating. There shouldn't be any space between the back portions of the legs. Now to get into the Half Lotus, remember, do not bend the leg like this. You should not bend the leg at the knee. This is the wrong way to get into the Half Lotus. No. You just tilt your leg a little to the side, bring it inwards, and no space here. Then you just bring it upwards slightly and you rotate the hip. And you put it into place, like this. Now, when training for the Half Lotus, you can leave the other leg like this, but if you want to sit in the more traditional Half Lotus, you should bring the other leg in like this and place it underneath, and like this. Now you're sitting in the Half Lotus. Then sit in the Half Lotus whenever you're sitting down during the day, and do it for as long as you can. After this, you will switch to the next leg and repeat the process. To take your mind off the effort, you could do this while, for example, watching a movie, and setting your mind to sit in this pose for the full duration of the movie. Or you could do it while reading a book, or on the phone, or in front of the computer. Well, you get my point. You should just train it as often as you can. As is true for all yoga practice, you get back just as much as you put into the training. Once you feel that you can comfortably sit in the half lotus, you should proceed to the full lotus. Now for the full lotus, remember what you did before with the half lotus. So no bending at the knee, no. Instead, tilt the leg a little to the side, bring it inwards, lift it up a little, and remember, no space here. You move the hips, you rotate the hips, like this. Now into the half lotus, and to get into the full lotus, just tilt the other leg a little to the side, bring it inwards. Now you have no space here, so what you do, you just lift it a little bit up, still no space here, you rotate the hip, and there, you're sitting in the full lotus now. Then proceed with practicing the same way as before. We'll say, practice sitting in the full lotus for as long as you can, and while doing something else at the same time, to take your mind off the effort. When I myself started practicing for this pose, I went straight to the full lotus and set my mind to sit in this pose for the full duration of some favorite music albums. However, I have a tendency to train pretty severely on the get-go, to test my limits, and this was also in my teens. So I wouldn't recommend that you start this way when being older and your joints are more stiff by nature. Just start with one leg at a time. And I will also say that if you have any doubts or concerns, you should first consult a doctor before engaging in this training in any way, especially if you have a prior injury to your legs and knees. When you have become more used to the lotus pose, you may also be able to get into the position without using your hands like this. You should know that when sitting in the lotus pose, your legs will eventually go numb, and when getting out from the pose, you will feel a strange tingling sensation in the legs, as the blood flow becomes less restricted, and blood starts to rush into the legs. But know that this will become easier with time, and the more often you do the lotus pose, you will handle it better. The legs will also feel quite numb in the beginning when getting out from this pose, and you should never stand up directly after sitting in a lotus pose. You should first massage your legs with your hands, and stretch your legs back and forth, and wiggle your toes. Then when the numbness and tingling have gone away, could you proceed to standing up slowly. Once upon a time, I stood up directly after a long meditation session in the lotus pose to answer a call at the door, and one of my legs just twisted below me, and afterwards part of the foot was blue for a while. It hid nicely without any lasting injuries, of course, but you should keep this cautionary tale in mind, to never get up before you have fully regained the feelings in your legs. Also know that if you go past your limits in the lotus pose, you will begin to feel dizziness in the head and pain in the legs. Of this I can attest to myself, as when I first began to sit like this in my teens, the pain in my legs was quite intense after I got out from a longer time of sitting in the full lotus. To further widen your hips when you are able to sit in the lotus pose, you can bend over like this. But remember, you should not do this in the beginning, and you should only do this when you have become more flexible. Something not often mentioned for this pose is where to place your genitals while sitting like this. If you are a woman, you may just disregard this advice and do everything else I've described so far. But if you are a man, you should always strive to place your genitals pointing up between the space your legs form while they are crossed. This space here. I will go into further details on why this is important in a future video. But for now, I will just briefly say that there's a reason why deities like Shiva sometimes are depicted as phallic, with their genitals pointing upwards. I will also add that sitting as such is often only possible when doing the full lotus without clothes. which I always do when not in a public space or while recording videos. It is also important to have a straight back when sitting in the lotus pose, so always strive to sit upright, even though this could feel difficult in the beginning. Know that you will progressively have to build up your back muscles to be able to sit upright for a longer time. Most people are just too used to neglecting their back muscles by sitting on chairs with back support. Either way, you should treat this training the same way as when training for the lotus pose and doing it for as long as you can. For example, you can set your mind to sit completely upright for the whole duration of a movie and not leaning back against anything for back support during this time. You can also start out this training by doing it in combination with the full lotus if you're able to. Here we'll also add that if you have a prior injury to your back, please consult a doctor before engaging in this training. Now the reason why it's important to have a straight back is because an upright position is better suited for correct breathing during meditation, but also due to that energy flows easier with a straight spine. For example, the spine should be straight when doing the root lock Mula Bandha, together with pressing your tongue, while in Khechari Mudra, firmly against the roof of the nasal cavity, to cause flashes of that sort of the spiritual power of Kundalini, to travel up the spine from the base where it ordinarily lies sleeping. But more of this in a later video, and don't worry if this doesn't make sense to you at the moment. I'm just mentioning it so you know why a straight spine is important, and I will flesh out the details of this practice in a future video. But if you're interested in how to do the Khechari Mudra, I already have videos on it, which you could check out up here. For now, just practice your lotus pose, and keep in mind that I have described some advanced practices that takes dedicated training to master. Don't feel let down because of what you currently can't do, but feel glad for what you can do, even if it's just sitting piled up against a wall to be able to sit straight, while doing the half lotus for very short times. Know that you're always progressing towards your yogic goal, as long as you just keep on practicing. And as long as you keep on doing that, I'm confident that you will become a yoga master. As a closing remark, I can say that the video you have just watched is part of a planned series of videos where I will take you from beginner to yoga master. So make sure to subscribe, as well as clicking the notify button to stay tuned for my future videos. Also click the like button if you enjoyed the video. And don't hesitate to ask me any questions in the comment section of this video. I would be most happy to assist you.